You know what? I think it's a great way to kind of set the tone for the day.
It does. It changes.
It's a great way to set the tone for the day. Set the tone means create the emotion, right? Create the attitude, create the mindset for the day. That's what set the tone means. Create a mindset, create an attitude. So by doing this in the morning, right at the beginning, he's creating his mindset, his attitude for the whole day. Sets the tone.
Listen, we've all had times when you snapped at somebody and you felt bad because it wasn't them, it was the state you're in.
We've all had times where you snapped at someone, but it wasn't them, it was the state you're in. To snap at someone means to say something negative or angry at someone, just suddenly, right? You say, stop doing that, right? If maybe a child's making some noise, and instead of being quiet, please stop that, you just snap, right? It means this just sudden anger comes out, to snap. You snap at someone. You say something angry suddenly at someone. And he says sometimes we do that, and it's just because we're in a bad state. A state means an emotional feeling. Again, a mindset, an attitude.
Right? Well, there's no excuse for that. If you prime yourself, you set yourself up.
It's like there's no excuse for that. If you prime yourself, if you set yourself up, these mean the same thing. It means prepare yourself. If you prime yourself, it means if you prepare yourself, right? If you create this mindset at the beginning, then you won't snap like that.
They've done studies where they go to people and they have a man walk up to you and say, could you hold this for me? Hand you a cup of coffee.
So there have been studies where they come up and they ask somebody, an actor says, will you hold this cup of coffee? And half the people get iced coffee and half the people get hot coffee. I'll just explain all of this because this is not so important. So they do that. Then later, another actor comes up and they ask them, please read this story. So they read a story about some character doing something. Then they ask questions about the characters in the story. They say, were these characters warm and friendly, or were they cold and unfriendly? And what's interesting about this study is that the people who got the iced coffee 45 minutes earlier, right, unconnected, they described the character usually as cold and unfriendly. And the people who got the hot coffee, who held the hot coffee 45 minutes earlier, they described the character as warm and friendly. So he's saying this shows how something so small, just holding a cold drink or a hot drink, how this can create a kind of mindset. It can prime you, right? It can prepare your emotions, it can create your emotions. And 45 minutes later, for something completely different, you still have a different attitude, depending if you held the cold cup or the hot cup. So he's just showing with this story the power of this, of in the beginning of the day, creating positive, strong emotions, because then that will affect your whole day. You'll see everything the rest of the day in a more positive way. You'll be more confident for the whole day. You'll be more disciplined for the whole day. That's the point of this story. So I'm just going to play the rest of the story now.
It's an actor. And then he takes something out of his pocket, then he takes it back and says, thank you. 100 people, they do it with iced coffee. 100 people do it with hot coffee. 45 minutes later, another actor comes by and says, listen, we're doing this little test. For $5, would you read this 3 paragraphs and answer 3 questions? Most people say yes. It's a little story. The questions are about the character. What's the character like? 80% of the people that got iced coffee say the person is cold and mean.
Wow.
81% of the people that got hot coffee say the person is warm and gentle or nice. That's how much we can be primed by our environment. We think we're just feeling what we're feeling, but our environment, if we don't take control of our environment, it takes control of us.
So important, he says, if we don't take control of our environment takes control of us. This is the big point. So he's saying if we don't choose to create positive emotions, strong emotions, gratitude, prayer, power, confidence, then the environment will affect us, right? People around us, whatever's happening. So we need to choose and do it ourselves.
Pretty wild, Tony. Now, this is
pretty wild, Tony, means pretty amazing. Pretty wild means pretty amazing.
Easy for you to say. Look at you. You're like an investment banker. You probably have a
Look at you. You're like an investment banker. You probably have a degree from Harvard. He's saying it's easy for you. He's joking, this interviewer, because he knows Tony does not have a college degree.
Master's from Harvard. I bet you have
None of
3
the
degrees from
above.
Harvard.
No, I got a high school education.
He says, no, none of the above. I have a high school education.
So what happened? You never went to college?
Well,
What happened? You never went to college?
my mom, I was going to USC. I wanted to be a sports. I was taking journalism.
I was going to USC. I wanted to be, and then he stops. He says, I was studying sports journalism. USC is a university, University of Southern California.
I was getting a scholarship, and then I had some major challenges with my family.
I was getting a scholarship, means he was getting money, free money. But then he had major challenges in his family. And here, challenges means problems.
I had to take care of them, and then my mom got
That I had to take care of, and then my mom...
very upset. I have 4 different fathers.
My mom got very upset. I had 4 different fathers, so her mom was always breaking up with all these guys, and Tony would get a new dad as he was growing up. Very tough childhood.
So I kind of had to take over. And so I went and started my first business.
He said, I had to take over means I had to take control. I had to take control of my life. And at age 17, I started my first business.
At 17, and
What
I
was that?
started from there. It was working for a man named Jim Rohn, and then
It was working for a man named Jim Rohn, and then I became a broker. A broker is like a salesman.
I started off and became a seminar broker. I actually filled other people's seminar events. And then
A seminar broker. So I filled other people's seminar events. So he would work with another speaker, right? And then he would sell tickets to the speaker's events. And then he says, I became really good at that. And I became so good, I started to do my own seminars.
I got better than the people I was promoting. And
I got better than the people I was promoting.
after a while, I decided, heck, I should do my own. And
I decided, heck, I should do my own. Heck is a very polite way to say hell, which is just shows emotion, that's all.
then I began to just expand and do work. And
Then I began to expand, to grow, right, and do work.
when I started turning around athletes and Olympic athletes, and I got to Nelson Mandela and Mother Teresa,
Wow.
and then I got to President Clinton, and it just grew.
And I started turning around athletes. Turning around here means helping them change their lives, changing for the positive, right? It means their life was bad, something bad is happening, and then I would turn them around, means I would help them change and get a good result.
What was Mother Teresa doing wrong before she met you? If anything.
Then this guy jokes, what was Mother Teresa doing wrong before she met you? This guy's joking again, right? Because he didn't help Mother Teresa do anything. He just met her. And then he tells a story how Mother Teresa was sick. She was seriously sick. She was in the hospital in San Diego, where Tony used to live. And then one day she just left the hospital. She just left. She didn't want to stay there anymore. She left a note saying, I can't stay here. I need to help people. And she went down to Mexico. And she said, if you want to help me, send a mobile medical unit. Mobile means can move. Medical unit. It basically means an ambulance, right? Maybe a bit nicer than that. You know, it's like a truck or a car that has medical equipment. And then Tony said I had a actor friend who was very famous, and we liked Mother Teresa, so we bought this mobile medical unit, basically a medical car or truck, and we drove it down. We took it down to Mexico, where Mother Teresa was. So we got to meet her, and we gave this to her so she could get health care while she was down there helping people.
I mean, come on.
Did she ever have a day where she felt like she got...
Mexico. And she said, if you really want to help, don't send me a hospital, send me a mobile medical unit. So in those days, I was friends with a very famous actor, and he and I were both fans of hers. And I said, why don't we just go buy this, you and I? Don't do a press conference. Just drive it across the border, let's give it to her. We'll get a chance to visit with her.
Let's just don't do a press conference, right? No publicity. Let's just drive it across the border and give it to her. And so they did.
What juices you? What excites you?
And when he met Mother Teresa, he said, what excites you? What juices you? To juice you, to get juiced, means to get excited, to get really excited. I'm so juiced about this. He jokes, okay, this is kind of slang, so maybe it was not a good word to use with Mother Teresa.
And she looked and she said something I'll never forget. She said, Tony, she said, what excites me most is see a person die with a smile on their face.
Wow.
So what excites me most is to see a person die with a smile on my face. That was Mother Teresa's answer. And he says, that's not my first answer, right? So because seeing someone die, most people, it doesn't make them feel happy, but it made her feel happy because the idea is that they felt at peace as they were dying. at peace with God, at peace with himself, selves, you know.
Wow.
I was like, wow, not number one on my list, but I'm impressed.
I'm impressed.
She's an amazing woman.
So, Tony, one of the critics, actually, that I once met said, yeah, Tony's techniques, they were great for about a year and a half, and then they wore off.
Okay, another critic, another kind of joke. Tony's techniques, they work for a year and a half, but then they wore off. To wear off means to stop working. They stop working. So basically, someone was criticizing Tony, saying, okay, his motivation, his techniques, they are effective, but only for like a year and a half. And after that, they stop working. And what's Tony's answer?
What do you say to that, folks?
It's real simple. If you don't work out, you don't get a muscle, right?
Right.
So he's saying it's just like, your mental performance, your emotional performance is just like your physical performance. If you don't work out, if you don't exercise, you don't get results. You cannot work out just one time and expect to get great results. You have to do it, right? You got to train every day, every day, every day. Well, he's saying it's the same with your mind. It's the same with your emotions.
I always tell people there's a daily practice like priming.
There's a daily practice like priming, like his morning routine, his morning system. You've got to do it daily, just like VIP, right? You've got to listen to these audios, to these lessons daily. You have to do what I say daily. It's a daily exercise. That's how you get the great results.
You don't do that. If you get up and you just have no discipline whatsoever,
if you get up, if you have no discipline whatsoever, means at all, if you have no discipline at all every day, you will not get good results.
get no value of anything.
You will get no value out of anything.
Diets don't work when you don't do them.
Diets don't work when you don't do them. Exercise doesn't work when you don't do it.
Exercise doesn't work when you don't do them. But most of the people have some experiences that they want to shift. And once you shift those things, your whole life changes. But
He says, but the good side is that most people have some experiences they want to shift, they want to change. And once you change those big important things, then your whole life changes. So there are certain things, if you change them, like just doing this little thing in the morning, like listening to English an hour or two every day, just that little change can make a huge change in your life, a huge improvement.
But life is constant growth.
Life is constant growth. Means if you're alive, you're constantly learning, constantly growing, constantly improving. All right, we are going to end the video there. I hope you've enjoyed it. Listen to the mini story. You're going to get more repetition and deeper learning of a lot of these phrases and words and others. The mini story lesson is very, very, very powerful, as is the point of view lesson. And in the commentary, I will talk more about some of these ideas that Tony is teaching us.